So yeah, you can join in Discord. And today we have a special guest, my dear Shailene Baca. She is a lead recruiter for UX designers in the United States, primarily. And yeah, she's amazing. She was here. She's the first IterateUXer from the beginning when we started. We were maybe 10 people in the meeting, and she was here with Trixie as well, and we were having really good time together. And she's going to start talking about recruitment, how they give you tips how to concentrate, how to improve your interview skills. So thank you, Shailene, for coming. I really appreciate your time. I know you are a really busy person, and yeah, I'm really happy for having you again here.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, thank you all for being here with me. To be honest, I'm a little nervous, but also really excited at the same time. It's my first time presenting to you guys. So of course, it's a new step, but this is going to be a very informal presentation. So I would love it if you guys collaborate with me, put in your thoughts. What is your experience? So yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you guys can't see it at all. Give me 1 second. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and jump right into it. But again, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask away. So going into that, let me go ahead and just say a little bit who I am. So my name is Shailene. You guys can also call me Shay if that's easier. That's what I'm really used to. But right after college, I went in and worked at Apex Systems. That's the staffing agency. And then from there, I got promoted to go work over, not promoted, so I had a career transition to go work at Collabra, where I became their lead technical recruiter for UX UI design. I also support a lot of other roles such as UX research, game design, and a whole bunch of other creative content related positions. I mainly support the West Coast, so think of like Washington, California, Oregon. But besides that, I still have access to a whole bunch of other positions around the US. So if you guys ever want to find a position local to your area, feel free to let me know and I'll keep an eye for opportunities for you. But going into that, with the agencies that I worked for, I staff for Fortune 500 companies, and they're usually tech type of companies, but it can also range from financial services, banking, healthcare, and so much more. I place UX designers with clients such as Microsoft, T-Mobile, Expedia, Agile, eBay. The list goes on, but have a lot of experience recruiting for a variety of clients. So I just want to share my experience, what it was like, why candidates were rejected, or maybe why, things didn't work out. So going into that, first thing I want to talk about is the recruiter process. And I feel like this would be helpful to you guys, so you guys can have a better understanding on, what recruiters go through to find top talent. So when we receive a job requisition, we need to obviously discuss the key requirements with the hiring manager if it's a direct rec, or a vendor supplier if it's a process rec. For you guys' information, when you guys see that job ID number when it comes with the rec, that is a process rec, which means that is distributed to all agencies who support that client. They will all receive that same position at that same time, which probably makes sense of why you guys all get recruiters reaching out for the same position all at the same time. With the process rec, there's usually about 2 to 3 submittal spots per requirement. And sometimes it can go on hold like really quickly, less than 24 hours. So recruiters need to find top talent within a short period of time. So what great recruiters would typically do is have a pipeline of talented candidates that they've already connected with in the past. And this is why it is very important for you guys to build connections with recruiters passively, because when there is a position that comes out, we need to quickly reach out to these candidates. And if you guys already built this relationship with these recruiters, they already have, they already know about your skills, your experience, your interest and rate. So at that point, they can just send you that when that job, that perfect opportunity arises that matches your background, they can just quickly send you the job description, see if you're interested, and get you submitted to the role. So again, it is really important for you guys to build those connections with those recruiters. And it's better to connect with them before that position comes available, because think about the time it takes to find, find the candidates, ask to hop on a call, talk about their qualifications. That can take a lot of time. So that's why I highly recommend building that relationship beforehand so they can get you in positions quicker. If it is a direct role, that's when we will have that direct communication with the hiring manager. When we have that direct communication, that's when we can submit a little bit more candidates, about 4 to 6. We don't want to submit more than that at a time to a manager because that can bombard them. And we typically want to get feedback first before we submit more. But the reason why, again, I want to bring this over to you guys and why this is important is because with this, what is good to keep from this and what you should understand, what I want to for you guys to keep in mind. Connections with recruiters, and they move fast, so that means, build that relationship so they can best support you. So account managers, they will work on the client side, so that's the hiring manager side, and the recruiters work on the candidate side. It is the account manager that will give the approval to get you onto the next stage. So when we are finding these talented candidates, we are going to use a search string that's going to bring, all the keywords that we need to find, the technologies that are required, the deliverables that are required, and also the projects that you'll be the project that you'll be working on during the duration of that contract or full-time role. So when we use those search strings and we find these qualified candidates, we'll be sending messages to them and make calls, and we'll even ask questions to see why you guys are the best fit for the role. My biggest recommendation to prepare yourself when you talk to a recruiter is turn those qualification requirements into questions and practice how you would answer that. That is probably one of my biggest tips for just preparing to hop on a call with a recruiter. And then from that, once we gather your experience, then we will create a bullet point of about 4 to 6 bullet points of why you're the best fit for the role. And then we would get your right to represent. And the reason why we get right to represent is it avoids double submittals, so that so many different agencies are not submitting the same candidate to the same role several times. And then also it'll just give us permission to represent you guys for the role. Once we do that, that's when we give it to the account manager. They will approve it and send it either directly to the hiring manager or submit it into the vendor management system. So keep in mind too, although us recruiters would love to give every designer a shot on being submitted to every position we come across, it's just kind of not possible if you don't have at least 75 to 80% of the requirements. Our job is to find the best candidates for the role, and companies will hire these agencies so that not only will we find the best candidates for the role, but we can get them candidates much quicker, because when candidates apply internally, they'll get a lot more unqualified candidates than qualified candidates. So that's why us as recruiters just can't submit everyone to roles, if you guys are interested but not qualified. However, why I wanted to talk about process and direct is if it's a process direct and it does go on hold much quicker, you will have a much better opportunity to get submitted into that vendor management system. But at the same time, if it is direct, we would need to make sure that it's a lot more, your qualifications are related to the job description and not so far off. So going into that, do you guys have any questions? Did that make sense? From there, we can move on to the next section, but I just want to make sure you guys understand what the recruiter process is. So, you guys can relate and understand why we say, oh, this position's on hold, or, or we need the right to represent. These are all the keywords you guys probably hear. Is there any other recruiter keywords that you guys are unfamiliar with that you guys want a better understanding on? Y'all good?
How do we approach recruiters? Like, how do we find them? How do we reach out to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So to find recruiters, the best way I would say is get connected with them on LinkedIn. There are a lot of recruiters that are actively posting too on LinkedIn and saying, hey, we got opportunities. So if you use those hashtags, you'll easily be able to find recruiters in your area that are supporting your type of roles. Also, another thing you guys can do is in the search bar, you can put in recruiter and then filter in the location, and you can find more recruiters within the area, and you can see what they're supporting. If you guys put in like UX recruiter, you'll get those popped up. That would be my best recommendation on picking and choosing your recruiter you want to work with. However, I'm a recruiter if you want. I don't mind supporting you.
I appreciate the offer, but I'm in Canada, so I can't work in the United States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but thank you anyway. But your tip on LinkedIn is that's a good one. I'll definitely check that out. I didn't think to do that, so thank you.
So when you say recruiters, are you talking about in-house recruiters or external recruiters?
External recruiters. I actually mean better. When I'm coming from a staffing agency, that's going to be an external recruiter. So I would be supporting a whole bunch of other clients hiring for like Microsoft, Wells Fargo, Amazon, Macy's, all the other clients. So internal recruiting, I haven't had hands-on experience with being an internal recruiter. All my experience has been as an external recruiter. That's a great question. Let me go ahead and give you guys some tips on how you guys can boost your profile views. And this is a way that more recruiters will be able to find you. So starting with that, it is very important to add common keywords to your LinkedIn profile and resume. So you really want to fill out that summary page. You really want to give yourself a solid headline. When you guys put in all your previous work experience, fill that out. Include the deliverables. What was your project experience? What were the features that added? How about that platform that you added? The platform that you supported, and who was the audience? What was the industries that you've supported? And the reason why you should really add as many common keywords is so that when recruiters are using that Boolean search string to find you guys, they're going to be using common words to pull up more resumes, more profiles. So if you guys add more keywords, you will be pulled up more. So if you guys see this first example of a Google X-ray search, you guys can see anything in the URL that will mention resume, CV, Vitae, portfolio, dribble. I'm pulling any URL that says that, but also pulling anyone with product designer in the resume, interaction designer. So those are where all the keywords come in. And then if I want like native app experience, I would put mobile or app or iOS, Android or native, and I close bracket it. So anything within there. This is also probably good for you guys to kind of learn, because you guys can enter this in Google, figure out, okay, who are people you competing against? What are their portfolio styles? And say you really want to get hired at Amazon and you wonder, what does it take to get hired at Amazon? If you were to put that in a key string and see, okay, who are those people that have previous experience over at Amazon? What did their portfolio look like, and kind of get some ideas that can really spark some ideas of maybe that you didn't think about on how to present your case study. Also too, if we're using LinkedIn, this is what a LinkedIn search would look like. They can be a lot longer compared to a Google search. But again, it's just getting a whole bunch of key strings and That's why it's very important to add as much common keywords onto your guys' profile. Do you guys have any questions on that? Is that good? Does it make sense? Also,
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Regarding adding common keywords to your LinkedIn profile. Is that specifically to any particular part of your profile, like to the bullets under each job, or as skills, or elsewhere?
Yeah, I would say like, it depends how they do it, because LinkedIn will also have filters where they can say, you know, rather than putting in my string that I'm showing you guys here, this is just anything that'll come up within UI designer, anything on there. But sometimes they might not do a huge key string on LinkedIn. They might just hit filters and say anybody with these job titles. So if your job titles are kind of like amazing UX designer and, you know, and through something like that, that won't pop up on the search filters, because it's, you know, outside of the those quotation marks of what those recruiters are trying to find. So with that, I would recommend as many common key, like even the project experience for search feature experience or search results. You know, there's different ways of saying it. So we would then need to come up with as many ways that we can say that project. So if it's so out of the random that someone included that, it just won't come up in our search. I'm sorry, my cat's trying to wobble the door. 1 sec. Okay, my bad. So if you guys are doing that, let me go ahead and give you guys my second little tip on what you guys can do to enhance your LinkedIn. What I would recommend is just add more recruiters to your LinkedIn connections. If you add more recruiters, they'll be able to, you'll be able to see their job postings where you can quickly respond to them and say, hey, I'm interested in this role. Sorry. I'm interested in this role and I noticed that you are looking for XYZ. I have these skills. And then that way, you know, not only will you be able to see these job postings, but now you can connect with these recruiters and get yourself presented right in front of manager much quicker. Also, when you make these connections with these recruiters, I find it really important to not only make an introduction, but also follow up. Recruiters can get very busy because they may be working on 5 different roles, trying to find like all the perfect fit, and someone reaches out to them and they're not fitting the roles that they're currently working on. They might forget to respond or might not have something for you quite yet, so wanted to reach out later, and you know that completely goes right off and they forget. So that's why, you know, it's good to just touch up, follow up. They're not purposely trying to ignore you. It's just a lot's going on. They have a lot of calls set up. So just that quickly friendly reminder, just say, hey, you know, wasn't sure if you saw this, just wanted to check in to see if you have any opportunities. You know, it doesn't hurt to just check in. Worst they can do is just not respond again. But the best that can happen is they'll get you into your next role. So another tip that I do have as well is make sure you guys like, share, and comment on more LinkedIn posts, because once you do that, you'll also get seen by not only recruiters and their connections, but also professional connections that recruiters are connected with, such as hiring managers. So when recruiters like your post, now these hiring managers will see your post on LinkedIn. And that goes the other way around when you like recruiters post or make some comments on your on a design that you've done and put in your thoughts. And also too, when you just share more posts and comment, it'll demonstrate your professional knowledge and also your passion for design, and recruiters love to see that in candidates. Also, another thing that I do recommend is making sure that you're sharing your profile edits, because anytime you change something in your profile, such as maybe a title change, maybe you got promoted to be a lead, or maybe you received another job, recruiters will get updated on that, and they'll get notifications on any time something's changed on your profile. Also with selecting open for opportunities is another great way. You know, with times when we're using those filters on LinkedIn, what a lot of recruiters will do is first go with open to new opportunities, find those who are currently interested, and then once they reach out to those candidates, then they will find those that are not really looking for opportunities, but could consider it, and then they, you know, will try to get them as well. But first they want to get people going as quickly as possible so we can get them submitted to these roles fast. That is what we really need to do. So opening for new opportunities, we know there's a better chance that this candidate's going to accept the message. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how I identify resumes. First of all, you really got to make sure your resume looks visually pleasing to the eye. Make sure it's easy to follow, and we can find all those key information about your experiences and skills. And if a recruiter reaches out to you with a position and you have a particular skill, but it's just like not mentioned on your resume, I highly recommend just adding that to your skill if you do have it. The manager will like to see those skills mentioned, and yes, we will create a write-up mentioning your experience, but just that extra validation, seeing it on your resume, will just give you a better chance to get that interview. Also, another thing is you really want to demonstrate a focus. You don't want to have so many titles. You really want to say who you are, and, you know, shall that be more focused onto the UX interaction side or a little bit more on the visual side. But if you're adding like marketing in there and a whole bunch of other titles, it can seem really confusing on where your career path is going. So just really make sure you're demonstrating that focus. So when going through resumes, I do not look at titles because job titles can be interchangeable. And also too, if they say they're a UX designer, but maybe not in charge of all the deliverables, then, you know, how do I know if you did all the UX design work, or maybe were you just in charge of personas, wireframes, and user testing? So I always focused on the deliverables. What did you actually do on that project? Also, I look at the platforms that you've designed for. Was it responsive? Was it native? I really like to find that onto the resume because a lot of hiring managers would want to see a particular platform skill. So if you have it there, it will just make it easier for a recruiter to know that you have all these experiences rather than looking through your resume, going through all your projects in your portfolio, seeing, okay, was it responsive mobile, native mobile? You know, so that's why in your key skills on your resume to include those platforms. Also, what were the relatable projects and features that you worked in, or that this candidate's worked in? So that's what I'm looking for in the resume. So what I recommend too is including those projects that you worked on. Should it be were you working on data visualization dashboard, or were you working on, let's just say, enhancing the design systems? Putting that in will also help, and we'll just give you more keywords because, again, recruiters, they're going to be searching projects within, you know, what's related to that job description. So if you include that, that's just going to make it much simpler to get the exact candidate that we need. Also, I like to find metrics on the resume. So how did the user experience increase? If it's not on the resume, hopefully it's at least in your portfolio. That's really what I want to know. How was it a better user experience? Also, what were the softwares, tools that you use? What is the industry that you typically work in? Managers really like designers coming from the same industry. And that goes for the audience too. Who are you designing your product for? And again, that is something that managers would like to see. Do you have experience designing for the same type of audience? And with the team size, team contribution, were you the lead designer, sole designer? Were you working with a team of 2 other designers or 8 other designers? That will really show on, how much work were you able to handle, who was involved with the team. It will show a lot into the workload too, but also understanding, okay, Also understanding on top of that, what I'd like to know is the environment you worked in, because from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, startup is a lot more faster paced. You'll probably get a more generalized designer doing both, UX, UI design, handling a lot more deliverables. But regulated, on the other hand, is a lot slower paced. Probably going to be more designers. There's and it's more rules, regulations, and guidelines that you have to go by. Is that understanding correct in what you guys have been through too with startup and regulated environment? Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No? Oh, yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure if that's the same with you guys. But yeah, that's kind of just what what I've been realizing too is when candidates coming from a startup environment, yeah, just handling a lot more deliverables, more responsibilities, faster pace, regulated. It's just different in that way, but more rules and regulations, guidelines, slower pace, all that. Also too, I like to know, were you working in a lean UX environment, which is just a lot more faster paced, agile. These are all just key things that managers will like to understand, and great things that will just show how it can be related to the new environment you'd be working in if you were to get that job. If you come from the same environment, the hiring managers tend to feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that you can handle the pace of the work. In addition, let me give you guys some tips on how I identify portfolios. Before I do that, do you guys have any questions on the resume section?
I do have one question. I have a resume that's a PDF version and has columns. Because I'm starting to notice that I'm not getting a lot of looks on my portfolio. Is it because of the columns? Is it because it's not working through the APS service that some recruiters use? Can you speak to that a bit? I think Jarrell also asked the question about the APS or the auto resume kind of scanner.
Yeah. I don't know which recruiter wouldn't be looking at a portfolio, but best understanding too is maybe they're just a newer recruiter thinking that they just need to look at the resume and don't really understand that there's a portfolio needed. I don't know. That would be my best guess on why. And I have seen recruiters do that. I'm like, oh wait, you're submitting a designer. Where's the portfolio? They're like, what do you mean portfolio? So I had to, walk them through that. So that could be my best guess why, but I would always look at a portfolio, so I don't know why they wouldn't look at it. Maybe if you want, you can send me your resume and I can visually see it. Maybe there's something confusing that I'm not finding.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. But someone else also asked, like, what's the best format? Is maybe Word a little bit better for recruiters' organizational skills, or like can they scheme through? Like, what is the best? Like, as UX designers, we want to know how could we accommodate you guys the best as possible so you guys can help us out.
Well, that's an awesome question. To be honest, both agencies I worked in, and I have a few friends that are in other agencies, and what all of us agencies are required to do is we're supposed to take out contact information before submitting them to a client. So keeping that in mind, we would then need to convert your guys' PDF into a Word, take out your contact information, and then I like the look of PDF, so then I would convert it back to a PDF. But if you really want to accommodate recruiters, and what we all have to do is take out that contact information, so Word document would be the most friendly for us.
Okay.
That's a great question.
That's good to know that we can provide all that, I guess, to you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, also too, if you guys want, just maybe have a different, if you guys like the PDF style, I guess you guys can just take out the email and phone number too, because with designers, they're less strict on having us reformat it because they want to see the style of the resume. So in that case, then I would just, if you guys want to keep to the PDF style, this second thing you guys can do to be somewhat helpful. It would just take contact information out. But great question. Thank you. Let me.
I don't know if you wanted to keep doing this, answer the question, or maybe in the end.
In the end?
Yeah, good.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Whatever you want. If you want to answer here, or you wanted to answer in the Q&A section after that. So
it doesn't matter to me. If someone has a question, like they might forget it, so it doesn't really matter. But
I did have a question, but I'm fine with asking it at the end if it's better for you.
Go ahead, you can ask it. I'm ready.
Okay. Cool, thank you. I was wondering, I'm like very new to UX and UI design, so I have like experiences in my resume that aren't directly linked to UX, but I do want to show like whoever would be hiring me that I am focused. But how can I still, I guess, present some of my older, less relevant work, or should I just take it out of the resume entirely?
That's a great question, and definitely you want to demonstrate, strong visual. You definitely do want to demonstrate that. And when I mean more of a focus, like focus more on like the industry that you're in. What are you typically from the financial industry? Are you that's a way you can be focused, or certain project experiences that you're in. That's another way you can have a focus. And it's okay, definitely, to have solid UX, UI skills. Managers definitely want to see that. But more what I mean is when I've seen so many portfolios where they're like, UX designer with marketing and advertising, just whole bunch of other things along with UX designer, that's when it gets cluttered and loses the focus. So did that answer your question? Was that helpful?
Yeah, that made a lot of sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So yeah, let me go ahead and give you guys a few tips on what I do to review portfolios. Another thing too with this is portfolios is going to be the most visible and tangible proof of all your guys' skills and abilities. So what you guys want to do is use your portfolio to show how deep you can dive into a problem and present your design process and be able to showcase your ability to craft these experiences. Hiring managers want to see a story about your process, but also your understanding. How did you make the lives of these users, different? What was this? How did you increase the user experience and make it easier for them? And secondly, managers want to see an in-depth thinking because they want to see this in-depth thinking process because, as we all know, tools are not the core requirement and consideration. Managers want to see this designer solve a particular problem. So they want to understand all the nuances and challenges that you faced along the way. They want to understand how that affected your decision making, and overall, how did it change the way that you would approach the same problem next time? So going into that, here's how I typically try to follow along with a portfolio. Usually most hiring managers prefer a case study version, especially if you're more on that UX side. Visual storytelling is another type of portfolio style I've seen. I've typically seen that more from UI designers, but think about the visual story like a picture tells 1,000 words. You understand everything this designer is doing. It's not just a picture of the final project and say, there we go, because the manager doesn't know what you did as a designer. So if you're doing that visual storytelling, making sure it's telling a story of your work. But when I'm going through this case study, I'm typically looking for that header image of that product with the title. Then what is the challenge or the goal of your design? Then I want to see, okay, what was your team like? And most importantly, what was your role? What did you do? From there, I want to see that step-by-step design strategy with the methods that you use and the decisions that you took. then with your results, all the way down to your learnings. That is typically what I've been seeing in portfolios and how I've been seeing the flow of many designers that's been getting these interviews and hires. So going into that, overall, the goal of what I'm trying to understand is the design thinking process, but also understanding that user's journey. Overall, portfolio should be clean, easy to follow, and include those pixel perfect design looks. It shouldn't be all grainy and outdated, looking like it was made back in 2007. Because again, companies are competing for the best product and services, and will hire the candidates that present a really clean portfolio. So this is your chance to really stand out. Typically, I would say that portfolios display about 3 to 6 projects of your guys' best work, which demonstrates the skills that you guys can bring to the team. But also, another recommendation that I have is let a recruiter know if you have any work samples or case studies outside of your portfolio, especially if it relates to the relates to the position. Because maybe you only want to display yourself as, in a certain way, only demonstrating particular projects, and say that you have design system work that's not in your portfolio, but you've done it before. And with this position that, I'm recruiting for, they want to see just some high, some design principles on there, okay? They just want to see some solid visual design skills, demonstrating typography, iconography, and say if this designer was said, oh, I have design system work outside with building out UI components, it's not my portfolio, and send it my way. That is awesome. If you guys have anything related to the role that's outside your work, let a recruiter know. It can all, if they think it's going to be strong enough to send to the manager, it's only going to help you. Also, too, keep in mind, portfolios can be subjective to the viewer, because again, all art is subjective. The best way that I've learned to overcome this challenge is just understanding the brand and the style of the company, and also what are the needs of the position. Another way that I look at the case study, you guys, if the other one was too much to remember, here's a quicker, easier way to think about it. STAR, so that is to communicate what the situation is. So what's the goal of the project? What tasks and actions did you accomplish? And then what were the results? So think about the analytics, final designs, and customer testimonials. Just like the slide before, this is saying the same thing, but just in a more condensed version. Given that, do you guys have any questions on portfolio? Is this from your guys' experience? Is this the same kind of flow that you guys design on your guys' portfolio?
Hello?
Oh, I was just curious. Is this the same flow that you guys would use when designing your portfolio, having the same kind of flow, such as situation, task, action, results? Is that
it is? I also had a question too. Yeah. So I'm also like a new designer, and I finished my portfolio, and I'm guessing when it comes to you guys looking at like a resume and a portfolio from a new designer that doesn't have any work experience, what makes that stand out to a recruiter?
I would then say concept projects would be the best, next best thing to show some kind of design thinking process. Try to join as many collaborations with other designers. Picking up some side projects would be very helpful. There's also, yeah, I would just say definitely concept projects would probably be the best way to go, just to get some things on there. That is, with a lot of roles that I recruit for, all of them require some portfolio with work samples in order to be submitted. Besides that, does anyone else have any tips on that?
You can join hackathons and work on on projects like that, because they're usually very quick within a week, and you can do multiple of those and get a few projects in.
Awesome. Cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, cool. Great question. Thanks for asking. Okay, so now let me go ahead and talk about some qualification questions that I like to ask. What, again, as I mentioned before, what I recommend doing is just getting that job description, turning them into questions too. But here are just some generalized questions. Since I'm not looking at the job description right now, here's just some generalized questions I like to ask without looking at the job description, just kind of understanding your guys' ability, project experience, and who you are as a designer. So I like to ask, tell me about your experience with UX UI design. This is where I like to get more of a percentage range of, how much UX UI deliverables that you typically work on. Because if you get a percentage range, you'll get a clear idea if you're more focused on the strategy side of things, doing more UX, or you more enhancing the interface. So with that, I really want to understand mainly the deliverables. That's really what I want to find out. But also I like to ask, what platforms have you designed for? And tell me about the environment you worked in. And when I want to know with the environment you worked in, it's again, that team size, what's your contributions, the type of environment such as startup, regulated, or agile, lean UX, all those key things. And maybe this could be a great thing. You guys could put in little bullet points on your guys' recruiter summary. Just give out those points. You're ready to roll. All my information's right here. But again, this is just kind of what I like to ask. And also, what are your tools are you familiar with, and what are your favorites to work with? I always like to ask that, because then when I reach out to a candidate and I'd be like, hey, I remember you love working with Figma. This is an all Figma, all Mac Studio. It just shows that, hey, I remember what you're interested in tools, and it just gets the candidate more excited, knowing that they're going to be working with softwares or maybe project experiences that they enjoy. Also, when I ask about, tell me about your recent projects, what I'm trying to figure out from this is, again, what are those industries that you designed for, audience, who are your stakeholders, what was the goal, what was the solution, features, functions, accessibility, and usability, just kind of those key things. And then also, were all of your products in your portfolio shipped? The reason why I like to do that is I really want to make sure that the hiring manager knows which ones are concept projects, which ones actually made it to production. Because with, if I were to be like, oh, look at all these projects, and then the manager realizes, okay, well, only one of them actually made a production, then recruiters aren't doing their job, to find out, okay, what actually made a production, how did the user experience increase? And if we're not doing that, then yikes on our part. So I always like to ask that question, were all your products shipped? And if they, some weren't, I like to dig deeper in, okay, well, where did you do this concept project, and get a little background on that. Was there a question that came in? Oh, no, thought I heard someone. My bad. All right, here are some creative questions that I like to ask. With creative questions, let me kind of briefly go over this, but what does design thinking mean to you, and what is your design process? From this, focus on user-centered design approach. Also, this is a great way for me to listen to your communication style, because as we all know, communication is very important for designers, as you guys are working with stakeholders, with your team, and also with users. So I'm really also trying to understand how you guys' communication style is, especially because this is going to be the same type of conversation you guys are going to have with the manager, really going through your design process. So another thing that I like to ask is, what are some of your favorite apps and app experiences? And I want to understand why. But this gives you the opportunity to provide reasons of why you admire certain apps. This can speak volumes about what kind of designer you are, and also the taste of your style. And then I like to ask, were you able to implement similar features in your designs? Another question is, how do you deal with people on your team who have opposing viewpoints on your designs? Another way that this can be asked is, oh yeah, sorry, wrong question. I was thinking ahead of the game. But how do you deal with people on your team who has opposing viewpoints on your designs? This is just understanding how you can handle conflict, how you work together as a team, and then also name an achievement that you're most proud of, and then what is the most innovative product you designed. So tons of awesome creative questions. Probably my favorite too is, what are some of the biggest trends in the UX design industry right now? But what I'm listening for is how well you keep up with industry trends. Strong designers will demonstrate passion and knowledge on this topic. Your answer will also help the recruiter understand where your current focus lies. Should it be like chat, or are you interested in like chatbot, or IoT is huge, AI, ML, data visualization, social platforms. And then also how this will also demonstrate how a UX designer will follow these, keeping up with these trends by doing, listening to UX podcasts or blogs or books, webinars. It really shows how strong, how much of a passion is in this designer. And that's what we love to see. And that's what also managers love to hear. Going into that, let me go over some interview preparation strategies that I have. This is just over time, me recruiting this. I just kept a list of common questions that came up or feedback that was given and put this together. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. But within the first step of the interview, the first call is going to be more of an impression call. This is going to see if you're a good culture fit. This is really going to show how you can bring value to your team. What can you offer? What is your biggest defect? But from that, you really want to make sure that you look up the company and you can make a few points on what they've been doing. Like, understand the type of software and applications that that they design, and maybe you can make that can bring up some talking points later on. In the second round interview, that'll typically be a video screen or an on-site. A tip that I have if you do go on site is always have your portfolio backed up on a PDF or a flash drive. And this is just in case if there's the Wi-Fi blocker due to security reasons. I believe Wells Fargo has a security blocker, so they also require that. So that's another thing, is always be prepared just in case if the internet, I don't know, if the internet's not going through, something like that. Also, other common interview techniques have been design challenges or whiteboarding challenges. But once you're, presenting your portfolio, be prepared to talk about 2 to 3 projects within your portfolio. But make sure you focus on relatable projects to the role if you do have it. Because again, the manager wants to understand what you did in that project, what was your thought process behind everything. And if you have, like, say for hiring for payment transfer, where you're transferring money and stuff, and say if you have a project in your portfolio, that's something you guys should demonstrate. However, if in the case you don't have something relatable to a project that's relatable to the position you're interviewing for, just make sure you can select a deck that can tell a story of your work. From there, you want to be prepared for the interviewer to pinpoint any part of your project and have you dive deeper. Even though you've memorized exactly what you want to say for your presentation, you're all ready to go, and what happens if you're in your flow and you go, and the interviewer is like, well, how about that? Tell me more about that. Can you dive deeper into it? And say you didn't, last time you worked on this project was like 3 years ago. That might, get you a little stuck right there and have you like hesitate. So keeping in mind that anything within your portfolio that you're presenting could be brought up, even if you, weren't preparing to talk on it. So that is one tip that I do have. Also, you want to discuss your process and how you approach the designs. By doing that, you want to provide a deep scenario or some kind of robust thought process from insight to design decisions within your presentation. So you really want the interviewer to understand the problem, how you frame the user, and overall capture the experience of the user. And then lastly, share your success with analytics and testimonials. You don't want to just say, yeah, we had a good user experience, but how did you have a better user experience? And that's where you really want to show the success through the story behind your work. Okay, so here is how I can best give some tips on how you guys can respond to these questions. So when you're talking about your project experience, you're focusing on your problem, your role that you played, the steps that you've taken, all the way down to solution, okay? We got that. Okay, so what were the deliverables that you worked on? When you're answering that question, don't just say, yeah, I worked with engineers, I did this, you're just listing things. They don't want to hear you just list things, but explain how you worked with engineers and what did you accomplish from that. Also, what were some tangible results? Don't just list things off again. Don't say, yeah, we did some storyboarding, we did some personas, wireframes, flows. But again, what did you uncover from storyboarding? What did you accomplish from that? That's what they want to see. So when you're describing your process and the methods you follow, make sure you pinpoint those moments of struggle and also the gaps in the process and how you designed a solution around that. However, you want to make sure that you stay creative in your process. So that's the ability to feel comfortable with challenging ideas and taking on a different approach. However, at the same time, you want to stay focused and precise with a clear direction. So you don't want to kind of just ramble on. You want to understand, okay, what is your goal to what you're trying to say? And that can actually help you. So when you catch yourself kind of going on for a while, how can you, get to the end point of where you're trying to go? Lastly, let me go ahead and just give you guys some common interview questions. These are just ones I hear come a lot. So why do you want to join this team? So great opportunity to really give your moment to shine and why you like the company. Also, if you produced a solution that you thought was the best and then it got pushed back from the management, how would you deal with that? So this same question can be asked like, what would you do if your client disagrees with your designs? This was actually asked to my candidate not too long ago, and they loved her answer. What she said was, give the client what they want. And as simple as that is, that is what you got to do. Give the client what they want, because again, you are designing for your stakeholders. So in that being said, what my candidate also did was understand what the issues were that this client had with the design. So she said that you then want to uncover that the issues had with it, the issues the client had with their designs, and you want to make sure, she wanted to make sure that the client wouldn't stay, isn't subjective, making sure that it's actual, there's finding the deep reasons of why they didn't like it. So if they're asking the right questions, then when they come back to, the iteration, redesigning it, going through all that, they could come out the second time around with the design they do like, rather than going back and back again. So rather than try to fight the client to say, oh no, this is better, understand why, making sure they're not being subjective, but then giving them what they want. Also, how you prioritize your time. This is going to understand, this is really going to understand where you find most important. Do you find user testing important, user research? Where do you find most of your time to really uncover solutions in your designs? What is an approach that, what is your approach to making websites and platforms accessible to all users, groups? But going at that's a little bit more focused on some UI design role. The question after that, what analytics tool and key performance indicators do you use to evaluate your designs? It's another common one. Walk me through a design example where you set out to solve a business problem. So this is how you should do this is use an example within your project. And what a great UX designer would demonstrate is not that they're just designing for an interface or a website or an app, but also they want to find, they're also wanting to solve a business problem. So by doing that, they would talk about the discovery and problem definition phase. Then they'll come out with the research just to uncover the source of the problem. So hopefully I didn't come out confusing with that. I felt like I was kind of going in, but hopefully that makes sense. And then lastly, why should we hire you for this role? This is a great opportunity to demonstrate why you are the best fit. All right, so that is my presentation for you guys. Thought this was a funny little meme of not so great UI, or sorry, great UI and not so great UX. I thought that was a little funny. But anyways, if you guys have any questions, let me know. But awesome. And if you guys want to get connected, there's my stuff. Guys,
you can share here. Yeah, I can give you here. You can start. Yeah, you can start questions. Guys, you have.
I have a question. Thank you, Shaylin, for it was really useful, and all the way that you framed a lot of common questions that problems that we have. That I've taken a lot of screenshots on my own, so that's just for my sake. But yeah, so there was one question that I had, and a lot of people are wondering, is that I've had experience with recruiters, and it hasn't been the best. Specifically with recruiters that, will meet with you in person, will ask you for all this info, you're excited about a role that they provide you, you go to multiple meetings with them, and then suddenly they stop talking to you.
Yeah, I've heard that happens a lot. I've heard a lot of that going on. And what was your question? I'm sorry to that.
No, yeah, I guess how do you go through the trenches and find the right recruiters that are willing to fight for you, find the right recruiters that are willing to put you into the spot that you deserve, find the recruiters that, just don't want you as a commodity, but want to garner a relationship with you?
Yeah, with that, I would just say trial and error. Because with recruiters too, it's hard to say because also they don't always have control, like what they should be doing to be a good recruiter. Even if they don't have feedback, they should be checking in with you. They should just say, hey, I haven't received feedback, just want to let you know, knowing that they're not just trying to ghost you. But that is sometimes a problem. And I guess to that, it's just a lack of organization on the recruiter side. For me, at least, anytime I talk to someone, I will put that in my Word document. I'll see it, and then I always know to come back. So it's kind of rolling the dice to find the right recruiter. I guess that would just be word of mouth from other designers who's built a good relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Something I wanted to highlight here is that what I like to be for Shay is that she always try to learn about UX. It's the only one recruiter that I know that she tried to be in this side as well. So yeah, this is something.
I wish I went in UX design. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. But you know what? It's great to be on the outside, looking in, and it's been really exciting. And yeah, I do have to say, with all the UX design recruiting that I've been doing, especially jumping into my new role where I'm teaching other recruiters, because actually why I got hired into my new job was because I had such a solid idea on UX UI design. So they wanted me to help teach others within our, within our region on it. So that means a lot. Thank you. I've been working hard. I don't have a degree in this, but I've just been learning after and meeting with managers and meeting with recruiters. So that really means a lot. I appreciate that.
That's great. That's great to know. Someone has another question for Shay.
What's up?
Hi, I have a question. I'm in one of those sort of intensive boot camps, and I'm doing it part-time. I work in product support now. How would you recommend sort of students gear their resumes as they come out of those boot camps for them to be picked up by recruiters?
Yeah, with that, I would say put it, so you know how you have your professional experience, put it then under your project experience, and then list your projects that you worked on the boot camp. That would be my best recommendation, but also to say what you worked on, you know, all those other key things that I was mentioning before, include that in your project experience, because that's also going to get you pulled up on those, you know, within those Boolean search strings. And then now they will look at all your other work that you have to offer too on top of that.
That's good. Someone else has another question for?
I have a question. So I just wanted to kind of add on to what you just answered in terms of like projects. And so most of the time, a lot of boot camp, I also just recently graduated from a boot camp, and most of the time, you know, students come out with, let's say, just concept-based projects, right? And you say that it's good to kind of list that out, for example, on your LinkedIn, under your experience, kind of just to see like what role you played and everything like that. So if, I guess like the better way to frame it is like how, like what is your recommendation or advice on how like bootcamp students can frame that on their professional LinkedIn or like their portfolio?
Yeah.
And yeah, I have one other question, but first I wanna ask you this.
Yeah. Well, with that, I really recommend, regardless, if you're going to put it on there, you know, present it as if you were presenting all your other portfolio pieces, but make sure you put on there it is a concept project. You know, I wouldn't try to trick anyone and, you know, get it in, because, you know, sometimes you know, that has happened where it looks so legit, so real, has everything in it, and then you realize, oh, this did not make it a production. And the manager found that out the manager even wanted to interview this candidate. But the fact that they ended up coming back saying that, oh, this candidate just had enough experience. We needed more, you know, more experience with this candidate making their work through production. So that being said, it's not like no managers would give this candidate a chance, but if they're not qualified, they wouldn't be qualified. So just don't waste your time, also not the hiring manager's time. So if they see it there's concept projects, they like it, they'll still give you the chance, but as long as it's not trickery.
And that's like, and then that's like under the, for example, I'm referring to LinkedIn, and that's under the experience. And, you know, I'm pointing out under the experience section.
The summary?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to get clarification on that, on where to kind of clarify that on LinkedIn page.
Even with that, I mean, I guess you could just, because a lot of people too, when they put on their experience, they will put UX boot camp, and they will just have that experience from the boot camp experience. So that's okay. If you just say you got it from there, put it like normal. You don't need to put it also in your summary, because that's still all that information in your job responsibilities under each job on your LinkedIn. That's still going to be pulling up on those search strings. So you don't need to feel required to also put it in your summary if it's down below in that project experience, because that will still be pulled up. Did that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Did you have a second question?
Yeah, but if somebody else has another question, I don't want to take up so much time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So one more question is that, say, you know, I haven't been, but for those, like I saw someone in the chat like mention hackathon. For those that you know, attended hackathons, you know, and they would list it under their experience and all that kind of stuff, like, and say they already have like enough to showcase on their portfolio the number of projects. If their most recent experience with a hackathon, you know, of course, like entails working with other people.
Yeah.
Would it be recommended to kind of like replace the hackathon experience over like any other individual project that you did, for example, and then also like highlight that in LinkedIn, for example? Like I'm just trying to like,
good question.
What more important?
Yeah. My best way to go around that. So you're saying it's the most recent experience, because that's the thing is when I'm looking at a candidate's portfolio, I always look at least 2 per candidate, because I don't like to judge a candidate's design experience on just one portfolio piece. So I always check the most recent one, and then I also check if there's any other one that's related to the role. But if not, I would, maybe click the second most recent one. If it's a hackathon one and this candidate has a lot of other, projects that made it to production, I would say it depends on the feature where you're trying. If you on this concept project we're doing something new and innovative like chatbot or IoT, something new and big, I would say then it's good to showcase because you're demonstrating the skills you can bring. Or say if it's, I don't know, if it's trying to put in the best way possible, because it really depends case to case, and it depends how it looks compared to your others. And if it's outshining all your older projects, then obviously you want to demonstrate that as your main thing. But at the same time, it's really what a manager also likes to see is what actually made it to production. So if in that case, yes, go ahead and keep it up there. Don't get rid of the other project. Maybe what a lot of people do is showcase their best work and then put other selected work at the very, very bottom of, not a focus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know. I can see it so much in my mind, but I'm trying to get it out in words. Yeah, that's kind of my best advice. It's really on a case to case and what you're trying to present and demonstrate as where you're trying to go.
I have a tip. Maybe you can agree or not. You can say your thoughts about that. But I normally put the description of the job in a text, in a doc, and then I highlight some keywords on that, and I try to put that in my resume to have more opportunities for the keywords, right? And after that, when I just per se that I have the interview, the phone interview or the phone screen interview, I try to put the same keyword in my speech.
Yes.
My speech. So each keyword is matching what they are looking for, even if they're not that much of experience, because normally the company needs requires more real projects. The same industry, and it's going to be junior. So it's kind of difficult to have all of the students, target different industry when you don't have any experience to show.
Totally fine. That is totally fine. Yeah,
it's kind of, you have to figure out how to, if you don't have that experience, you are going to work on that. Or if you have, for example, for me, that I think if you have a background in architecture or engineer, you are more targeted to that industry than the others if you are new in UX, for example.
Yes.
Yes or no? Yeah.
Sorry, kind of missed your question at the end there, but yes, you I get what you're saying. Yes, you do obviously want to target where you want to go, but if you don't have that much experience, it's okay. Mention the experience you have, it's okay, especially if you got a lot of different enterprise experience from different industries, still solid. We're looking at the how are you going to stand out as a recruiter? We're trying to find all those things because obviously our job, we want to make hires. That's really what's going to benefit from us. So we're going to do everything we can to sell you to this manager where they're going to want you. So that being said, if with the sticking to your focus, you can go around it different ways. But at this, sorry.
Really to hear is the pet. It's our pet.
Huh?
It's our pet.
I know. They're getting close to their dinner time, so they're sorry, I totally lost my train of thought too. If you guys didn't know, I started training at 5:30 a.m. today, so I'm going. Yeah, so sorry if I'm acting all woo. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Someone has another question for we can wrap up at 9.
I have a quick question. So I've talked to a lot of, I'm actually in the Chicago area, but I've talked to a lot of recruiters in Chicago and in Minneapolis. And I also am a boot camp graduate, but I have some like company experience, like you were saying before, like kind of, I worked in communications before. And so I technically have like around 3 years of experience that I can talk about. But a lot of recruiters have told me that right now, just those more entry-level roles for UXers just aren't really coming up. I was wondering, like, for you, like what your experience has been like that, with that, and you know, what you would say about that right now.
You know, great question. And that kind of goes back to, you know, in my presentation when I was saying it's really good to build that proactive communication with recruiters, because as soon as that junior or like entry level position does become available, they can quickly reach out to you. So yes, that recruiter is right. It's most agencies will get roles looking for 3+ years of experience. That is common, but we still get those other entry level positions. It's a bit more rare, but when we do get them, you know, that's the opportunity where we can, you know, get you into those roles. And going with that, I actually do have, and you guys have a Discord, right? I think I'm a part of that, but I also do have an entry level UX job, but they are looking for someone within a financial industry background or fintech. So I can still send that over, but at least I know you guys have the Discord, so I can maybe start sharing more junior level positions there, and we can get you guys into roles, because I understand how hard it is coming to being new into UX, and you know, they want someone with experience, but it's hard to get experience when you know, when no one's willing to give you a shot. On the good note though, what I have noticed is since UX design is becoming very, very common than ever before, you guys have the opportunity to you know, learn how to create a really awesome case study or portfolio compared to people who's been in the industry for a long time and maybe didn't take pictures along the process along the way, so really don't have any evidence to back anything up. So on the good note, you guys are really setting you guys up for success, getting that knowledge that is now becoming required. So but yeah, you know, to answer your question, it is less junior level roles that you get, but it's not completely rare.
Yeah, no. And I've heard that a lot of the roles sometimes don't even get published, or because those kind of roles snap up pretty quickly, and most recruiters, and that's more maybe in-house, that's the case. But thank you for sharing your perspective. And thank you so much for this presentation. It was so helpful.
Cool. Yeah, that makes me excited. Cool. Well, yeah, that's all I have, and I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, go to sleep, Shady.
Yes, I've been working for over 12 hours straight. I'm ready.
Yeah, congratulations, because you rocked today. You nailed.
Thanks. It's finding an opportunity. I'm never like kind of just going in shooting for it, but no, thank you. This is awesome. Hopefully I didn't sound awkward.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys all later then.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, should I put on my LinkedIn on the chat box? Yeah. Or I guess. Yeah.
I think it's good.
Okay. Cool. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Victoria and Paulina, for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Nina.